going on, Stinkies? Well, with 2025 in the record books and 2026 officially underway, what better video to start the year than with my most anticipated movies of the upcoming 12 months. And it's looking like it's going to be an absolutely stacked year, especially in terms of already established franchises. You got things like Toy Story 5 coming out, you got the next Mario movie, you got a Star Wars movie, you got all the superhero stuff. None of that stuff necessarily excites me a lot, and none of it will be on this list. But there's still a ton of other movies that I'm really looking forward to that didn't even quite make this list. You got things like Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die that I've heard nothing but great things. You got Street Fighter that looks so cheesy and dumb but just right up my alley. Mortal Kombat 2 I'm sure I'm gonna love. Despite being disappointed with 28 years later, I still have high hopes for The Bone Temple. There's just going to be a lot to try to go see. And no matter what genre tickles your fancy, there seems to be such a variety of movies going on this year and a plethora of each variety that I think there's going to be something for everybody to love. Now, I do have 3 honorable mentions, so I guess technically this is going to be a top 13 instead of a top 10, but they're all movies that I wanted to at least briefly cover. And before we begin, if you enjoy this video and want to see more like it, or just feel like being cool and helping support the channel, please be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And with that out of the way, let's get right into it with number 13, which is Scary Movie 6. After the success of last year's Naked Gun reboot, I'm even more excited to see this. I feel like it's been so long since we've got some genuinely great comedies, especially of the spoof and parody. Add on top of that, we've got the return of the Wayans brothers, we've got Anna Faris coming back, you got Regina Hall returning. I am so excited to go check this out when it comes out in June. Perfect timing for my birthday movie. I feel like it's either going to be this one or another one that I have just slightly higher on the list. But with a lot of the original cast returning, I'm assuming that this is going to lean more into aping legacy sequels, which I think there is a lot of fun to be had with that concept. Obviously, nothing has been confirmed plot-wise, but that just, to me, seems like the most logical way to go. But even if this one starts getting bad reviews, it's definitely one I'm still going to go check out and make up my own mind on. I'm just trying to keep realistic expectations, but I'm hoping for a true return of comedy classics. At number 12, we have Obsession. Now, this movie wouldn't even be on my radar at all if it wasn't for the early word of mouth going on from people who have been able to check it out at film festivals. This is the new horror movie from Curry Barker, who had gotten a lot of buzz with his previous effort, Milk and Cereal, which I still haven't watched yet, but I will rectify that problem before this one comes out. And he's also a very well-known YouTuber. I just have never seen any of his stuff. But this is about a guy who uses a supernatural toy to wish for his longtime crush to love him more than anything else in the world, only for some very dark consequences to play out. And I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. I absolutely love these types of little horror movies that seem to come out of nowhere and end up being some of the best movies of the year. Last year for me, it was Together, and I'm kind of hoping Obsession this year takes that mantle, because I am genuinely looking forward to it. Once again, I'm just trying to not overhype it in my head or anything, because I know how much that can actually hurt a movie, unfairly or not. It's just how it goes. But I'm expecting a wild and deranged horror movie that hopefully at least is really good, if not absolutely great. At number 11, we have Violent Night 2, the follow-up to the 22 holiday action comedy that's pretty much Die Hard but with Santa Claus. Now, I absolutely love the original. It was such a fun concept of seeing Santa just whoop some Yuletide ass. All I know about this one is it's apparently set in a New Jersey strip mall, and he's fighting a crime boss and his henchmen, and some of the new cast here. But I have no reason to believe that I won't like this at least just as much as I like the first one. David Harbour is just such a great pick for this, like, Viking Santa. He's so much fun here. Kristen Bell is going to be in this one as Mrs. Claus, so that's kind of interesting. But the person I'm most looking forward to here is MJF. I'm a big wrestling fan. I'm not so crazy about AEW. They do a lot of really good stuff sometimes, and they do a lot of really dumb stuff sometimes. But he is consistently one of the highlights of that company, so I'm really curious to see what he is able to do here. At number 10, we have Dune Part 3, the next entry in Denis Villeneuve's epic space opera series. Now, I've never read the books, but I absolutely love the 2 previous movies he did in the series. He's such an intense visual filmmaker. I have a hard time believing... almost knocked my headphones over. I have a hard time believing that this is going to be anything less than great at the same level as the previous 2. I like the world that's been built out here. I like a lot of the characters that envelop this world. I really just don't have anything exciting or in-depth to say other than this is probably easily going to be in my top 10 best movies of the year. At number 9, we have Project Hail Mary. From the novelist of The Martian, we get our next big space adventure with a big sense of humor. This time, you've got Ryan Gosling as a science teacher. I really gotta stop talking with my hands so much. You've got Ryan Gosling as a science teacher who awakens on a spaceship with no memory of how he got there, and he slowly starts to realize and remember that he was on a mission to figure out why the sun was dying and save the whole universe. I like Phil Lord, no relation unfortunately, and Chris Miller as directors, so I think it's going to be great in every one of those aspects. Ryan Gosling is such an entertaining actor who usually picks interesting, if not at least enjoyable movies to do. Having not read the novel that this is based on, my only hesitation with this movie is that having seen the first trailer that they released, I worry that they showed a little too much going on. I was already hooked into it, and then late in the trailer they were showing the deep universe stuff and the alien things, and I'm hoping that they didn't show more than what was necessary, and I hope there's still some big surprises in store. But this just looks like an absolute blast, a sci-fi space adventure that I cannot wait to see on the big screen. At number 8, Steven Spielberg returns to the alien invasion subgenre with Disclosure Day. And even after making classics like Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T., and to a lesser extent War of the Worlds, I was looking forward to this movie, but I wasn't like overly enthusiastic about it until I saw the trailer. It looked so creepy and interesting, just magnificently done. Bravo to whoever cut that trailer. That shot my excitement level up all the way to a 10. It just looks like such a cool, old-school styled thriller, which makes sense because it's coming from a guy who's been making these kinds of hits since the 70s. His last few movies haven't necessarily been for me, but I am really looking forward to him diving back into the sci-fi thriller genre, and I cannot wait to see what he does here. At number 7, we have Clayface, a DC Comics body horror movie written by Mike Flanagan about a shapeshifter who terrorizes Gotham City. Fuck yeah. As I've said before, I'm not big into the superhero stuff. A lot of it kind of feels like same old, but this one, by no metric, falls into that category. I've never read the comics, but just the simple idea and the basic plot that I've heard shot it way up on this list, and it is easily my most anticipated comic book movie of the year. I love movies that explore the darker side of superpowers and everything. Batman's got such a cool rogues gallery of villains that I hope this movie's successful not only for its own sake, but also for the sake of them continuing this and making more movies about these lesser known, more messed up type of characters. I'm not sure how it's going to tie in with the Batman or the Brave and the Bold, or if it even will, or if it's going to just stand alone and be its own thing. But I cannot remember the last time I have been this excited for a comic book movie. At number 6, we have Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. The long-awaited, at least for me, sequel to the 2019, one of those, to the 2018/19 hit. All I know about this movie is that Samara Weaving is returning. Apparently she's teaming up with her sister in this go-around. I don't know, like, if it's another family they're fighting or something, but just how much I loved the original, I cannot put into words how excited I was when I heard that this was officially announced. I avoided any trailers I can because I absolutely love the original, so I don't need any selling on this. I'm going to go see it. Radio Silence is so good at making these closed quarter bottleneck movies. They just get so tense, and I think they excel in these kind of situations. I'm just both really excited and really intrigued with how they're going to do a follow-up. And I love the cast that they got going on here. Samara Weaving is returning, obviously. You got Catherine Newton and Kevin Durand from Abigail being incorporated in over here, which they were two of the highlights in that movie that was full of character highlights. Elijah Wood and Sean Hattasy are in this, so that's going to be cool. I'm a big fan of them, and it'll be nice to see a little faculty reunion. And I'm a big fan of Sarah Michelle Gellar, so it's been awesome seeing her pop up in more and more stuff lately. Even like Dexter Original Sin, where she wasn't given anything to do, she was just kind of there, there was no purpose to her. It was still a pleasure to see her, because it's been a while since she was anything like really big, that I'm aware of at least. If this comes anywhere even close to the entertainment of the first one, then I am absolutely going to love it. At number 5, from Radio Silence to the follow-up to their last two movies, and that is Scream 7. Now this movie is definitely a bit, I don't know if tainted's the right word, but it's definitely got a bit of a stink on it after the whole Melissa Barrera controversy. I really don't like the way Spyglass seems to handle things. First, you had Neve Campbell returning for this after she wasn't in 6 because they wouldn't pay her what she wanted. Now, was she asking for a ridiculous amount, or did they just not want to offer something that was fair? Who knows? On top of that, you have the whole Melissa Barrera firing for her supposedly saying anti-Semitic things. If you looked into it at all, you would know that's just completely asinine. Now, with that out of the way, I am still looking forward to this movie. The original Scream is one of my top 2 favorite horror movies of all time. It is one of my favorite movies in general of all time, and I absolutely love the franchise, so there's really nothing that could happen that would make me not want to watch another Scream movie. This is another movie I haven't watched any trailers or advertising for. I know enough between the casting and it following Sydney and her daughters this time around. I know supposedly Ghostface is going to be using like AI and stuff, which I think is a pretty clever idea. There's not really much new meta-wise to focus on, so you might as well go technology-wise. And I am eternally curious to see what it's going to turn out to be with Kevin Williamson at the helm. Now, it makes sense in a way where Scream is pretty much his brainchild. He wrote the first 2, he did the original draft of the 3rd one, he wrote the 4th one, but he's only directed one other thing in his entire career, film-wise at least. I don't know about TV show directing. And that was Teaching Mrs. Tingle, which was like 27 years ago. I still like that movie, but that's a long break in between movies, and now he's at the helm of one of the bigger horror franchises. Anyways, if it wasn't for the controversy shading this movie, this would easily be my number 1 or my number 2, but as is, it's still a movie I can't wait to see, and thankfully I don't have to wait much longer to go. At number 4, we have Send Help. Misery meets Castaway, directed by Sam Raimi. Say no more, I'm there. I did watch the trailer to this one, and it looks like an absolute thrill ride. Sam Raimi is one of my favorite directors of all time, from the Evil Dead series to his Spider-Man movies. I do think his best movie is A Simple Plan, one of the more underrated ones in his filmography. Definitely check that out if you haven't. And it's great to see him back with a new movie. I didn't care much for the Wizard of Oz movie. I never watched the Doctor Strange sequel. So I've been starving for an old school Raimi feeling movie, and this feels like it's right up his wheelhouse for his style. You got Rachel McAdams returning after a few years off as this shy office worker who never stands up for herself to her boss, played by Dylan O'Brien. And they end up being stranded on a deserted island after a plane crash, and he is injured, and now the power dynamic has dramatically altered. And it just looks tremendous. I'm glad that I only have to wait until the end of the month to go see this. If this was a few years ago, I would have been more worried about it being a January release, but it seems like studios are starting to shift away from using the first few months of the year as just a dumping ground for their movies. At least, I hope so. But this looks great. I like the talent involved, it's got an intriguing setup, and I, for sure, am looking forward to it. I don't see how I'm not gonna love this movie. At number 3, we have Resident Evil, the latest Resident Evil movie with no ties to any of the other previous movies, and no real ties to the game, apparently. Now, I know the original series didn't have any ties to the video games, and they're not very well beloved, but I do enjoy the first two at least, but it definitely gets very rocky from there. And I did like Welcome to Raccoon City, despite thinking that they overloaded it by trying to adapt 2 games instead of just focusing on one. And I really just wish they would go 1 for 1 and just directly adapt the first game for a movie, the second game for a movie, and so on. But the thing that has me most excited here is that it's being helmed by Zach Krager, who last year just brought us Weapons, which I really liked but thought it was a little overhyped, and Barbarian, which apparently is a very love-or-hate movie for most people, but I absolutely loved it. He's got such a unique and fascinating style, especially when it comes to his pacing and structure, and I think that will honestly work very well within this Resident Evil universe. As I said, I wish they would have more directly adapted one of the games, but I'm sure he is going to come up with a really fucked up and cool story that, while it might not be the game exactly, it'll at least feel like a cool little side story. Much like Dune, I just really don't have anything exciting or in-depth to say other than I'm really looking forward to it and I'm sure it's gonna be a banger. At number 2, we have one that's probably high on most people's lists for the year, and that is Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. I don't think there's a more fitting term for this than just epic. You have one of the most grand filmmakers working today, taking on one of the oldest epics in history. Add to that a stacked cast that seems to include over half of Hollywood, and you've got what's probably going to turn out to be one of the biggest and most praised movies of the year. I do like sword and sandal type movies a lot, and I just have a feeling this is going to turn out to be one of the best types of those movies ever. Now, I'm not a huge Nolan fanboy where I think he's untouchable and nothing he does can be wrong, but there's just no denying how talented he is. I mean, even Oppenheimer, while wasn't quite a movie that I would ever care to rewatch or anything, and I thought that movie was massively overhyped, it's a technical marvel. So him with a more thrilling storyline, I don't see how I'm not going to love this, especially when they get into some of the more mythical elements of this story. I'm excited for this. I think it's going to be one of the biggest blockbusters of the year. Unless it's the super rare misfire from Nolan, I don't see how this isn't going to make my top 10 of the year. At number 1, we have Werewolf. Werewolf? You know what I'm trying to say. The latest period piece horror movie by Robert Eggers. And I really don't think there's much I need to say to justify putting it at number 1 on my list. Eggers is obviously one of the most celebrated directors working today, especially in the horror field, and despite how great he is, he hasn't made a movie that I've quite absolutely loved yet. Don't get me wrong, everything he's done is great. It's just a lot of it kind of keeps me at arm's length, it feels. The Witch, or The Vivitch, is a spectacular movie. It's just not something I would say I enjoy or ever particularly care to rewatch. The Northman is a pretty kick-ass movie, but it had certain elements that I felt were completely unnecessary to it. The Lighthouse is absolutely not my type of thing, but I totally understand why it is for some people. And Nosferatu, as much as it's my favorite by him so far, didn't quite fully come together at the end. It's visually a masterpiece. There's no denying that. But it was just a bit overhyped for me, and it's kind of the basic Dracula story with nothing particularly new added to it besides just the visual elements. Now, I absolutely love werewolf movies, and it breaks my heart that there's not too many what I would call classics in the subgenre. You got things like American Werewolf in London, which is great. You got The Howling that a lot of people praise, but I like it more than I love it. Honestly, I think Silver Bullet might still be my favorite werewolf movie of all time, and that came out in the mid-80s, so I think it's more than time for something else to take that throne. I am just aching for a well-done and badass werewolf movie, especially after the disappointment that was Leigh Whannell's Wolfman from last year. And who better to do it than Eggers? He's got the style for it. I think a period piece setting would work very well. Excuse me. The usual fantastic cast has been assembled for him. My excitement level is at an all-time high for an absolute new classic in this genre. Please, please, just deliver. Once again, I'm trying to not have unrealistic expectations going into it, but I think it is more than possible and honestly very likely that Eggers is able to deliver the type of movie that I have been waiting so long for. I'd say patiently, but I've kind of run out of patience when it comes to werewolf stuff. But time will tell, and go figure, this is the movie on the list that has the longest wait since it doesn't come out until Christmas. Funny how life works like that, ain't it? Well, that's it for me, guys. That's my list. Do with that information what you will. Do you agree? Disagree? Go down to the comments and let me know. And while you're down there, be sure to give me your list of your most anticipated movies. Maybe you know of some that I haven't even thought of, and I would probably regret not putting it on my list. Thank you. See you next time.